He rescued her from a mugging until she learned he's a notorious mafia boss. Jennifer's heart was pounding, and the sound of her own breath echoed louder than the thudding footsteps closing in behind her. Rain slicked the pavement under her feet, each step threatening to betray her with a slip. The streetlight flickered, casting erratic shadows across the dim alley. Yet the chase seemed surreal, like a scene from a movie she'd never wanted to star in. "Run, damn it!" she whispered harshly to herself, feeling the icy fingers of panic clawed her throat. Her hand tightened around her small leather purse, the only possession in her grip. Though it carried little worth beyond a couple of 20s in her eye, the man's snarled threats hung in the air as heavy as the storm clouds above. With a desperate gasp, she darted left into an even narrower path between buildings, hoping, praying for some semblance of security or invisibility. But instead of darkness and escape, she collided with a solid wall of warmth and strength. "Watch it!" the man barked before turning softer. "Whoa, are you?" She barely had the chance to apologize before the urgency in his voice shifted the universe around her. "Here, stay behind me," he commanded, stepping forward with a posture that brimmed with assuredness and power. The mugger staggered to a halt, his wet clothes clinging to him uncomfortably. He sneered at the interloper, his knife glinting ominously under the sporadic glow of the light. "Who are you supposed to be, her bodyguard?" The stranger said nothing, but his presence was answer enough. Flanking him from behind, Jennifer saw calm fury lurking beneath his exterior, a stark contrast to her rising fear. In the vacant air between moments, her would-be hero moved with a fluid grace, disarming the threat with a flop of the wrist and a pressure point that sent the attacker wincing into a whimper. The knife clattered to the ground, its shrill clang punctuating surrender. Jennifer's breath escaped in ragged relief, an involuntary tremor shaking through her. "Thank you." "Let's get you out of here," he said, subtly guiding her away from the scene. The rain fell harder, pelting them as they moved away from the confrontation. Dripping and breathless, Jennifer found herself in the stranger's car, its leather seats cold against her skin, a contrast to the heated silence that stretched between them. His eyes, a startling cerulean, glanced over with a softness that seemed at odds with the deadly seriousness minutes before. "Are you okay?" he inquired, breaking the silence with a tone rife with concern. "I think so," she managed, her voice still shaky. "I don't know what to say." "There's no need for words," he reassured, turning his gaze back to the road as the car purred to life. He drove confidently through the slick streets, the city lights casting fleeting patterns across their faces. Jennifer watched him, absorbing the quiet strength he emanated, the calm air he carried, even after such chaos. It was a protective blanket she hadn't realized she needed. But who was this man? As if sensing her inquiry, he turned to her with a slight, unreadable smile. "Call me Nathan." She repeated his name in her mind, as if it held secrets she could unravel if she only understood its melody. Nathan pulled into a safe-looking diner parking lot, its neon sign buzzing with welcome allure. He ushered Jennifer inside, away from the falling rain, and into the warm hum of clinking dishes and murmured conversations. Over a table stacked with steaming mugs and comfort food, Nathan's interest in her seemed genuine, not merely polite. "Do you always wander alleys at night?" he teased gently, his previous distance now replaced with a playful concern. Jennifer laughed, a sound she hadn't expected herself capable of tonight. "No, usually I save my nighttime adventures for dodging mugging attempts," she replied, a wry smile teasing the corners of her lips. Their conversation flowed easily, weaving between light jest and lingering questions unasked. She found it disarmingly easy to talk to him, sharing pieces of her usual routines, her passion for painting, her mundane tales of city life, details so inconsequential, she thought, to a stranger who'd just stopped a knife. Yet, beneath her words, the unspoken lingered. Who was he truly? Every now and again, his eyes would darken with thoughts held back, mysteries unspoken. But each time she tried to push through that veil, Nathan simply smiled it away, redirecting the conversation or asking another question that steered clear of himself. Suddenly, her phone buzzed on the table, a reminder of the outside world she had escaped, or so she'd hoped. The text from her best friend demanded immediate response. Questions about safety rose, demanding answers she was barely able to provide herself. "Everything okay?" Nathan asked, noting her distraction. "Yeah." She nodded absently, her mind still juggling too many unknowns. With undeniable reluctance, their night came to an end. Nathan offered her a ride back home, the rain having continued its relentless battering of the city. As he pulled up in front of her modest apartment building, he hesitated as if weighing words unsaid. "Be careful, Jennifer," he murmured, his voice lined with an earnest gravity that triggered an unexplained warmth in her chest. With a soft nod, she slipped out of the car but lingered, her curiosity held at bay only by social grace. She wanted to ask more, about him, about what drove a man like him to her aid. But behind his serene demeanor, in the depths of his eyes, lay answers she wasn't sure she was ready to confront. The car door thudded shut behind her, and she watched him drive away, the taillights diffusing into the night's embrace. Her apartment loomed quiet, welcoming after the evening's tumult. Yet, as she settled into her space, her mind wouldn't let the events slide into obscurity. Her thoughts cycled through her savior, whose name seemed to echo unbidden, until revelation struck with the flashing of her dusty television in the corner. The news anchor's voice breached the silence, one name chilling the air with unexpected revelation. Nathan DeMarco, believed to be linked with the recent upheaval in the city's criminal underworld. Shock clasped her heart in its relentless grip, his cerulean eyes bearing secrets unimagined. Her mind raced, the room spinning with vertiginous denial. Could it truly be? Her fingers grazed the smoothness of the leather purse, now feeling more weighty than ever, tethered to decisions unknown. Nathan's parting words came back to her, the unanswered connection that now seemed riddled with unseen tremors beneath her skin. And then, like melody to silence, the truth closed in. "I should have known," she whispered into the stillness, heartbreak lacing her voice. Outside, the rain traced its cryptic patterns against the window pane, silent secrets meshed with fate's own ragged designs. Nathan left a shadow in her life, one poised to shape everything she thought she knew. And it wasn't over. Her eyes moved from the mirrored window to the spot where a dark emblem had adorned his collar, though she'd failed to notice an intricate phoenix woven in gold threads, now blazing in memory. The emblem flickered ominously in the recesses of her thoughts, its visual metaphor a lingering promise of chaos cloaked in allure. "I should have guessed," she repeated, the shadow cast by his departure still too broad to measure. "Nathan's not who you think he is," murmured a familiar bartender as Jennifer entered the crowded downtown gala. Her fingers clutched the silk of her evening dress, balancing on uneasy heels. She had ventured here searching for answers, heart still heavy with the shocking truth of Nathan's identity. The grand ballroom bustled with laughter and clinking glasses, an orchestra of understated opulence. Crystal chandeliers cast golden arcs onto the polished marble floor, where guests glided, seemingly unfazed by the layers of secrets that whispered beneath their polished veneers. Jennifer was the jeweled gem among them, her presence understated, her gown unadorned but graceful. Yet behind every poised smile and inconspicuous glance, her mind turned with quiet introspection and disbelief. Nathan had saved her. That much was undeniable. But now, knowing his ties, knowing the shadow of his name, her resolve wavered. She scrutinized the crowds, hoping to spot him amidst the vast sea of elites, a man she barely knew, yet was bound to confront. Back to an ornate display of roses, vivid red against white silks, she felt the familiar sting of exclusion. Dresses shimmered past her like whispers of a forgotten film, and each laughter seemed a note shared beyond her reach. Her fingertips subtly traced the neckline of her dress, conscious, protective, a habitual gesture laced with anxiety. "Are you lost?" a voice teased gently, breaking her introspective reverie. Startled, Jennifer turned to face an elderly woman, her gray eyes sharp beneath a crown of pinned curls. She had the air of someone who owned stories and secrets, someone offering more than casual conversation. "Not lost, just looking for someone." "Ah," the woman nodded, her gaze wandering the attendees with practiced ease. "Seeking seems a common plight here, and rare are the destinations found." There was a hint of warmth, an ambiguous understanding in her words. Yet the interaction barely quelled Jennifer's unease. a feeling of being evaluated by someone who knew more than what appeared. She responded with a soft smile, moving past with renewed determination. As the evening waned, so did her hope, until, from across the room, a figure she recognized emerged, framed by the curious glances of those around him. Nathan in a tailored dark suit that matched his enigmatic presence. He stood, discussing with authoritative figures. Each word he spoke seemed to weave tightly into the tapestry of power around him. But his eyes, like a magnetic north, kept returning to her a silent acknowledgement, a tether that spanned the room. Gripping her glass, Jennifer navigated the ebbing tide of guests. Every step toward him felt weightier, her conscience and heart at odds over what his appearance in her life might truly signify. With proximity, the low hum of dialogues and laughter softened, encapsulating them in a silent bubble of resolve. Jennifer, Nathan greeted as she reached his side, the world around them retracting as though by some unspoken command. "I needed to understand," she began, eyes searching, "who you are within all this." "And now that you do," he inquired, a gentle challenge to both reclaim and harbor the distance she might insist upon. Jennifer looked down, steadied herself against the rush of conflicting emotions. "I don't know what will satisfy," she confessed. Nathan's expression remained inscrutable, but his reply came without hesitation. "There's more to this world than what it demands, but not everyone has to find their way in it." The statement was as much an invitation as it was a warning, a layered truth that lingered ambiguously between them. But clarity was far from reach when a commotion drew their attention to the floor's grand entrance, a new arrival commanding in demeanor and entrance. The man, surrounded by an entourage, exuded an air of regality tainted with undercurrent menace. Jennifer felt Nathan's momentary stiffening beside her, perceptible to none but herself. The intricate tattoos of a phoenix revealed beneath the intruder's sleeve confirmed unspoken affiliations. "Who is he?" she whispered, tension threading her voice. "Not someone you cross casually," Nathan murmured, and a hint of his earlier aura protector, guardian, resurfaced just below his composed surface. Their conversation, their tenuous bond, held abruptly in limbo as the gala continued unabated, a whirl of shimmering gowns and tailored suits set against the brocade of deceptive grandeur. Despite knowing safety, despite the public setting, Jennifer sensed the precarious balance of her situation, like a dance of shadows poised to unravel at light's encroachment. Standing at Nathan's side, she felt both uncovered and shielded. Curiosity piqued, her heart responsive to the ungraspable depth Nathan represented. As she pondered what this entailed, the night stretched on, every thought shadowed by the emblem of the phoenix she refused to look away from. And thus, as the gala moved toward oblivion, Jennifer's choice tightened within the bind of intrigue and looming threat. It was an intricate emblem that, hidden where once seen, could not be unseen, flickering in her mind like the cut glass in chandeliers above, inherently pristine but ever mercurial. Curiosity edged her consciousness awake while the gilded clock hands continued their circular journey. They were held in lived graspings of minutes, this confrontation seemingly circling them in grace and danger, until the stranger's voice cut through the gathered din. "Do not let your choices betray what they seek to guard." These words, uttered cunningly, lingered like a thread between destinies, a warning crossed with a lure, intersected by the game Nathan played, unveiling yet another layer Jennifer would perilously choose to pursue. In the cacophony of night, the moment tipped into acknowledgement, where the music reverberated with stories uncoiled and bonds subtly redrawn. And so the evening fell into silence, with Jennifer sitting in its dark embrace, when a voice in shadows captured her full regard. "You're not supposed to be here," it whispered with a convicting softness as an unfamiliar silhouette watched her from the edge of the empty ballroom. Darkness melded with outlines, leaving only a hint of purpose to entwine her faltering breath. Heat rippled through the surging crowd, every face turned towards the podium where Mayor Tommaso glared down at his restless audience. The press conference had erupted into chaos, microphones clamoring for his words, eager to catch every contentious syllable. "Your affiliation with crime is nothing more than rumor," a journalist shouted, his voice slicing through the saturated tension. The mayor adjusted his tie, defiance flickering in his eyes. "These are baseless allegations," he declared. though his fists clenched against the anxiety seeping through his guard. In the back of the crowd, Jennifer observed, her heart thudding in rhythm to a disquiet she couldn't quite pinpoint. She dipped her head slightly, trying to maintain a low profile amidst the frenzy. Dressed in muted earth tones, Jennifer's appearance was nondescript, yet her thoughts assembled a tempest of shadowy revelations. Her encounter with Nathan had left her drifting in murky waters. His cryptic past loomed ever-present in her mind, dictating each cautious step she navigated through this web of intrigue. A gruff voice wove in through her contemplation, pulling Jennifer's focus. "Hey, you're the art girl, right?" She turned slightly, facing the grizzled features of Detective Vance, surrounded by the scent of cigar smoke and cheap aftershave. His presence was formidable, the lines on his face weathered from years of pursuing truth in a city determined to shroud itself in secrets. "Yes, the art shows," she nodded, though her heart stuttered, suspecting his true intention. Vance's reputation preceded him, a tenacious bulldog of the force, known for sniffing out truths others failed to sense. "And yet here you are in the muck with the rest of us," he noted, his eyes narrowing with a mixture of suspicion and reluctant respect. Jennifer forced a smile. "Curiosity piqued my attendance more than allegiance," she replied, measuring her tone carefully. Vance's eyes yielded nothing, but he spoke in warning tones. "Stay clear of the deeper games, Missy. The closer you get, the less you see the way out." Her quiet nod conveyed enough acknowledgement to temporarily dissuade his scrutiny, but inside she bristled, torn between his foreboding advice and her own burgeoning defiance. As the press conference climaxed, a protester rushed the stage, reaching into his pocket with a swift, menacing motion. An instinctive scream caught in Jennifer's throat as guards tackled the intruder before crisis could fully unfurl. Questions and accusations ricocheted through the hall, compounded by fear and the electric buzz of potential violence. Amidst the scramble, Jennifer slipped away through a side exit, breathing deeply of the crisp night air. The press of bodies and tension felt suffocating inside. Under the watch of the moon, she moved down the slick city sidewalk, her gaze drawn towards the faint glow of distant neon signs. Nathan's figure found form in her thoughts, worrying the edges of her mind where the line between ally and foe remained dangerously blurred. The wind was cool against her skin, a gentle reminder of moments that felt like refuge and those that now seemed distant. Unbidden, her fingers traced the outline of the Phoenix emblem, still so vivid in her memory, emblazoned on Nathan's attire. What did it signify in the grander scheme, beyond the superficial charm of its craftsmanship? Her reverie was interrupted by a flicker of movement in her peripheral vision. She stopped, senses heightening, the hair on her neck prickling with unease. In the shadowed recesses between buildings, she discerned the faint outline of a hooded figure. "Following won't end in your favor," she spoke into the darkness, projecting more confidence than she felt. A low chuckle emerged from the shadows, followed by a voice dripping with charismatic menace. "I didn't take you for a woman without manners, Jennifer." Nathan stepped forward, discarding the anonymity of shadows, his familiar, cerulean eyes settling on her with an enigmatic calm. He exuded a presence that both repelled and attracted, carrying with him the weight of all she now knew, and yet still much she didn't. She stood her ground, deliberating between retreat and confrontation. "Why?" she demanded, desperate for answers beyond the cloak of charm. "Why anything?" he countered smoothly, maintaining his proximity. Silence settled around them, layered with unsaid words and unexpressed fears. The indifferent hum of traffic provided a soundtrack to their wary standoff, each second etching their uncertainties deeper. Finally, Nathan's demeanor shifted slightly, not an unravel, but a careful, calculated opening. "It's not what you imagine. This world, what I do, it's survival first, Jennifer. The life terrifies you, as it should." His explanation rolled over her like the waves at the shoreline, bringing little comfort but providing vital insight, a stepping stone within the chasm that had erupted between them. Jennifer considered his words, weighing them against the delicate strand of trust she still might extend. "And what if I want to survive too?" she challenged, her voice steeled with quiet resolve. Nathan gave a small, acknowledging nod, a flicker of respect shadowing his gaze. "Then you may already be too deep," he mused quietly. His words, tantalizingly laced with ambiguity, set a strange kind of tranquility within her. She could sense the truth nested within layers of deception, dares wrapped in kindness, dangerous dance led by rhythm she was only just beginning to understand. As she stood on the pavement, wavering between paths unsaid and vows unmade, Nathan leaned closer, the scent of rain mingling with his presence. "You know where to find me," he murmured. An invitation, or perhaps a challenge, left hovering in the air like mist. Tonight, as full shadows consumed the series of narrow cobblestone streets, Jennifer knew her subsequent steps bound to traverse the edge of precipice, but with her feet firmly set. Nathan slipped back into darkness, and as his image dissolved, she heard the melancholy notes of a distant music box, a melody distant, growing nostalgic, but forever untouchable. The streets, washed in streetlight amber, yielded their secrets slowly. Jennifer turned, setting her course away from the city's heart, yet clearly feeling its pulse rhythmically beat in sync with her own uncertainty. Behind her, shapes twisted in unsteady reverence beneath dim lamps, and it was in this vulnerability that she found her inner resolve. The night lay heavy, poised for intrigue and revelation alike, casting long shadows upon where choices would inevitably lead. Only the whisper of an impending storm, hinted by the wind's returning urgency, foreshadowed what she knew awaited. "Watch if shadows bare their teeth," she murmured to herself, a promise and a hope hitching a ride on her breath as she stepped into the awaiting darkness. Rain-soaked streets gleamed under the pale moonlight, casting reflections of a reality that mocked serenity. A sharp metallic clink rent the air, the sound of a gun magazine sliding back into place. "Run!" The word hung deafening in Jennifer's mind, not spoken but commanded by her instincts. But her feet were glued. Skulin, her gaze locked onto the figure of Nathan, who lowered the weapon, subtle smoke escaping the barrel. The echo of the gunshot still rang in the alley, a harrowing sentinel of chaos. Underestimating the dangers that newly framed her world, Jennifer was a figure draped in muted colors against the piercing vibrancy of the city's shadows. She hugged her coat tightly, the rough fabric brushing against her bare fingers, feeling the chill that clung not only outside but seeped within. Nathan, standing amid encroaching darkness, carried both an aura of peril and an allure that ensnared her better judgment. Yet beneath this unpredictably frightening layer, he had a presence that, for reasons unknown, whispered of a paradoxical safety. "What have you got yourself into?" she admonished softly, words slipping from a weighty place within her. The concern lines deepened on Nathan's brow as he approached, slipping his gun discreetly back under his belt. "Things you're better off not knowing," he replied, his voice edged with urgency. "But you need to leave, Jen. It's dangerous here." Conflict tethered her to the spot, battling the surreal reality enveloping her life. Her eyes, full of questions, mirrored the storm-laden sky above. But before she could voice the torrent of inquiries demanding escape, the sound of approaching footsteps drew both their attentions. A group of men, cloaked in shadow, edged closer, each movement calculated. "Is this what you call control, DeMarco?" the leader taunted, a sneer curving his lips. Jennifer, rooted in position, felt the prickling sensation of fear craftily stalking her resolve. She could hear Nathan's silent plea, delivered through a shared gaze of mixed warning and remorse. In the escalating tension, Nathan moved beside her protectively. "Get behind me," he ordered, his tone brooking no argument. The surrounds echoed with their retorts, caught between feigned decorum and their undeniable history. Shadows reeled around them as Nathan's allies emerged, backing his stance with silent solidarity. And then Nathan did the unexpected. He smiled, a gesture that held no warmth, but was laced with a knowing strategy. "Ever considered a new game?" His voice was challenging, possibly only a step away from mock. The head antagonist released a low, guttural laugh, one echoed by his companions. "You think this is a game? You misunderstand power, boy." Nathan's chuckle, unexpected amid looming peril, touched upon Jennifer's growing uncertainty. "It's clear you've never understood the art of diversion," he countered with cold precision. Even as tension prickled the air, the true intent of his words played out. A diversion unraveled in the shadows, as several of Nathan's discreet operators outmaneuvered the encroaching cadres, an orchestrated bind tightening around their foes. Amidst this revelation, Jennifer caught a glimpse of a familiar emblem, a phoenix subtly shining from an adversary's collar, akin to Nathan's own, an emblem of conflicting allegiance. Suddenly, an unseen understanding found its footing within her. This emblem, no longer a source of fear, but of insight. With swift efficiency matched by the unfolding scene of deception, Nathan's men overpowered the encroaching threat. Disorder collapsed into sudden resolve, silence bearing witness to the determined trust Nathan commanded. The conflict, while seen through malicious eyes, ended as swiftly as it began, yielding temporary peace yet promising more to come. In the wake of newly forged uncertainty and fruitful scheming, the quiet aftermath pulsated with subdued intensity. Nathan's men discreetly dissipated into the night, their roles complete. As they stood amidst a transformed battlefield, Jennifer inhaled deeply, the scent of ozone mixing with the lingering traces of smoke, a sharp reminder of the fracture between imagined safety and grim reality. Entwined by newfound respect and muted suspicion, Jennifer confronted Nathan openly. "You planned this." Nathan shrugged, conviction in his eyes echoing through his stance. "Survival often demands strategy. I'm sorry you saw more than you should have." Jennifer's gaze didn't waver, heart torn between fear and the thrilling dance of opposites that their lives mirrored. "I don't want to be sorry," she declared with clarity, hoping her words were forceful enough to reach depths unspoken. Gesturing solidarity encased within the swirling complexities of their lives, Nathan placed a warm hand on her shoulder, offering not answers, but a chance choice blossoming where fear threatened to take hold. Yet, as the night laid weary burdens bare, Jennifer glimpsed movement from the alley's depths. A flash of color burnt orange, the shade of a tattered coat blending with the shadows. A line uttered, ominous and steel-like in the crisp air, closed around them. "Sometimes it's not the monsters who are dangerous, it's who they protect." A single tear traced a path through the grime smeared across Jennifer's cheek, a silent testament to disbelief and despair. In the alley's muted aftermath, the clatter of a passing subway reverberated above, echoing through the damp streets akin to the fracture in her heart. All around her, the ghosts of Nathan's calculated strategy lingered, shadows of a conflict she'd unwittingly become embroiled in. The world felt unanchored, like a film reel slipping loose from a projector, images stuttering and tangling, ensnaring her in a drama beyond her comprehension. She hugged her arms tightly to herself, as though squeezing her own skin could somehow bind her fragmented rationality. Each breath trembled against the cold, urban night. Nathan stood nearby, a controversial figure with eyes like reflective depths, holding more questions than Jennifer could bear to confront directly. He was calm, yet every word he'd spoken, "Survival demands strategy," echoed ominously, probing the thin line between ally and adversary. Against the orchestra of city sounds, Jennifer sensed an encroaching silence cage them. Her senses, heightened by adrenaline and unshed tears, registered the subtle smell of burning tires and smoke. The city breathing through its very noises was a monster all its own. The crisis, intensified by Nathan's cautious protection, had recast the narrative she'd crafted. A feeble canvas was lit by street lamps and vibrant trepidation. "What now?" she murmured, vulnerable yet defiant, a strained touch of resistance underlying every syllable. Her skin prickled from the biting air, but more so from uncertainty. Nathan exhaled slowly, his silhouette outlined starkly against backlit walls. "You must understand the danger," he insisted, his voice laden with a gravity that hinted at more losses than victories. He moved closer, breaking into her personal space but not entirely unwelcome, his presence a juxtaposition of warmth and calculated menace. "You need to stay away, Jen." Despite forewarnings, Jennifer's heart rebuked the cautionary tone. She squared her shoulders, eyes glimmering with the remnants of a fortitude not yet dimmed by fear. "Running doesn't seem like an option anymore," she contested, her voice polished with a resolve teetering on desperation. Nearby, a fleeting silhouette attracted her fleeting acknowledgement. Black cat prowling curiously amidst the chaos, its green eyes darting with each subtle movement and quivering noise. "The enemy watches in silence," Nathan murmured, his gaze following her momentary distraction, his remark draped in the future's uncertain dirges. His words sounded almost like an omen, underscored by an electric thrill of latent apprehension. Hours blurred into a tangle of whispered truths and the shifting landscape of Jennifer's apprehensions. She followed Nathan, an unfurling map of urban alleys mute witnesses to their passing. At Nathan's apartment, a disarray of cluttered rooms formed a dichotomy of livid urgency meshed with secrets buried. The controlled chaos reflected shadows of his concealed life. Jennifer stood on the edge of revelation, a traveler poised at an unfamiliar threshold. Her mind, trained in expression by way of art, marveled at the impromptu gallery before her, sketches and notes dashed with vibrant immediacy. "Don't take it in all at once," Nathan advised, reading her overwhelmed glance. "Every story's anchor is ambiguity, waiting to resolve." Through slivers of moonlight slicing between fractured blinds, Jennifer began putting together the pieces of Nathan's complex narrative. "There have been incidents," Nathan confessed, detaching himself from the shadows. His demeanor, unwavering, told tales without words, lines unspoken, anxiety knitted into trivial gestures, yet betrayed by his eyes. "Incidents?" Jennifer prompted, her voice intelligent and inquisitive, the undercurrent strong. Nathan leaned against the wall, the homegrown chaos surrounding them surprisingly comforting. "Our world shapes and reshapes us." Sometimes brutally, Jennifer observed him intently, fingers trembling slightly over the table's edge, bearing witness without judgment. Her respite, brief and fragile, shattered under surging police sirens howling outside. The lights bisected the evening into paradoxical clarity and confusion. Nathan stood relentlessly still, adapting instinctively to the promised complications. Running would have worked once escape in etched tunnels and smudged canvases, but Jennifer felt distinctly aware of her active role now. "What have you gotten yourself into, DeMarco?" she probed, each word impacted by the surging rhythm around them. Nathan's laughter, grim and genuine yet imbued with resigned acceptance, haunted her consideration. Life with fewer choices. Silence followed, weighted with old stories reborn, woven in tighter threads than reminiscence. Before long, they found themselves drifting through midnight's corridors. Beyond the salient blaze of neon signs marking the nightscape, Nathan revealed the crux's emblem, a phoenix. "The very symbol, a bridge of my sins," he acknowledged quietly, detached yet personal, vision congruent to belief. Jennifer, awash in awe, noted fingers tracing the emblem, legacy portrayed and purpose resigned. Her uncertainty reflected within him, drawn to her implausible position. Nathan's calm enveloped them, a tempestuous dance balancing fate and tranquility as they blindly shouldered their choices. And from therein whispered shadows, resurfaced did promises more piercing than mere mortal vow or faith none guaranteed. "What will you do, Jennifer?" he questioned, searching for determination in her spirited response. Portively pushed to act amidst revelation, her answer flourished between breaths. "I don't know, but I won't be a shadow." Nathan stepped closer, comforting in proximity, heralding trust stretched between them, moments, speckled hues driven accentuating conversion. Yet within every secret, a reminder of one single shape, a phoenix mark emanated like melodic score and harmony, singing of nothing but extremes, correlating and woven. Outside, dawn hinted crescendo anew, next blending pastel summits beyond infinity. And in the still quiet, Nathan, visage colored by the complexities shaped against the light's ambivalence, smiled with a serene, flawed understanding. In the harbor of night's edge, a shadow unfurled against the advancing lit street, adopting a volatile stance familiar in readiness or deceit, a shadow promising disruption against the peace, detached from simple recollections. "Every mark has a story," he murmured just audibly, conscious of the mysteries contained therein. But there was no more time. Jennifer saw, heart chilling as the reality-pieced fragmented lines cradled in silhouette's remark. She had no time to parse the tension drawn beat by stroke. A vistroke across a canvas, yet to be complete before Nathan delivered perhaps their darkest truth. "Beware who watches you from the shadows." Moonlight cast an ethereal glow over the dilapidated warehouse, its crumbling walls cloaked in shadows that blurred the line between memory and reality. Jennifer's breaths were ragged, echoing into the emptiness as she crouched low behind a stack of rusted barrels, her heart a drum reverberating against her chest. Nathan was out there, somewhere. The thought both comforted and terrified her. A twist of fate had brought her here, following fragmented leads, haunting whispers, and the uneasy alliance she couldn't quite trust, but wasn't ready to betray. She had discovered Nathan's world, a fractured portrait painted with crime, secrets, and uncanny allure. Her fingers fidgeted over the smooth metal of a pendant, its weight a new yet familiar intrusion amidst the chaos of Phoenix etched onto it. It was more than a symbol. It felt like destiny etched against her skin. "Keep it close," Nathan had whispered, passing it into her palm with a conviction that lingered. She never imagined herself clutching anything other than brushes and canvases, her life aligned with colors and emotions rather than shadows and whispers. Yet here she was, the artist turned voyeur to criminal orchestration, an unwelcome muse to realities unwritten. The warehouse groaned as the wind whipped through shattered windows, pulling Jennifer from her reverie. Her reflexes tightened, eyes flickering towards movement-lithe figures emerging from corners like silent specters drawn to a macabre spectacle. "What's your plan?" A voice cut through the silence, gravelly, familiar. Jennifer turned her gaze to Vance, the detective appearing more myth than man in the dim glow, his trench coat a swirl of shadows at his feet. "What's yours?" she shot back defensively, the pheromones of fear barely supplanted by resolve. Vance regarded her with an unreadable expression, a man waltzing on the brink of law and necessity, to ensure those within these walls don't bleed harm into the city outside. An uneasy alliance had formed between them, bound by threads of ambition and morality, a dance neither led. We wait until Jennifer's words faltered as the warehouse springs to life. Doors slammed, footsteps clattered across the metal walkways above, the sudden onset of noise an orchestra of organized chaos. Moreno's men entered, threading through shadows with stealth and precision. Jennifer pressed herself tighter into cover, her breathing almost inaudible over the rising clamor. "Now or never," Vance whispered, eyes dark with determination. The plan was a hastily sewn patchwork of intentions, spelled out in quick breaths and furtive glances between them. Engage, distract, confront. A dangerous game with even more dangerous players. Jennifer steadied herself. The warehouse layout burned into her mind's eye. Vance moved first, slipping silently into the fray, an echo of noir determination in every stride. Tension coiled within the room along with cigarette smoke and whispered plots. Jennifer hesitated, the self-imposed freeze a cocoon of doubt she battled to break free from. Nathan would show. He had to. With both of them entangled in this labyrinth of deceit, he was the only constant that could spiral her into certainty or obliterate the boundaries entirely. Hours could have slipped unnoticed within the suffocating secrecy, time turning anti-clockwise on a broken dial. Finally, Nathan appeared, a silhouette against the light casting its wayward skew in shadowed arcs. The sight of him was a trigger, awakening a relief taut with waiting. But he wasn't alone. Next to him stood an imposing figure, Moreno. Men of power and purpose, their dance far more intricate than the confines of legitimate reason. Every clandestine deal, every subtle nuance of trust and treachery they shared, spun its web. Jennifer was helplessly ensnared, a moth drawn willingly to incandescence and ruin. Moreno spoke, his words wrapped around them like a snake ready to strike. "You bring the girl here? Thought you'd be smarter, Nathan." Nathan countered with a smooth confidence that belied the tension bubbling beneath. "She's not just anybody, Moreno. We both know she's painted into this world more vividly than we care to admit." Jennifer's heart pounded with stubborn certainty and fear alike, knowing this moment would eternally sketch her path. She emerged from her incomplete refuge, shaking off vestiges of uncertainty. "I choose to be here," she asserted, voice echoing louder than intended. Eyes turned to her from all angles, their expressions a symphony of shock, intrigue, and vague amusement. Nathan watched her, eyes casting a luminescent blue glow, its familiarity spelling words unspoken. His next move was unpredictable, yet she knew it held her fate, and perhaps his own. Moreno stepped closer, examining her with an analytical gaze. "You defy expectation," he remarked. "The pawn becomes the player. She's no pawn, Nathan countered. A veneer of protection, slipping momentarily to reveal something raw, uncut. The tension layered between them threatened to crackle into explosive transformation, shared glances conveying truths untethered by dialogue. Moreno, unfazed, continued, "Let's see if this painter's eye can spot deception wrapped in loyalty. Show me where your allegiance aligns." The challenge unfurled like silk, undeniable, accessible, tearing at the seams of superficial allegiance. Jennifer felt the pendant around her neck, unassuming beneath layers of fabric. It was her anchor, her decision embodied. "You'll know when it's time," Vance had casually thrown those words her way earlier, the weight now settling firmly in her chest. Decision was painted in bold strokes, lines clear yet incomplete, a narrative bustling to breach creative confinement. She was about to speak when the lights blazed fully, an intrusion of vivid white piercing the carefully cultivated shadows. Police descended into the space, a perfectly executed raid, precise, unwavering, bearing justice's brazen banner. Chaos erupted in a dance of desperation. Figures clashed and parried as serenity shattered. Nathan's hand found hers amidst the disarray, a fleeting touch, grounding both amidst torrents, external and internal. "Trust me," he implored, sincerity etched into every line of worry. She nodded, their silent agreement a stronger promise against the din than any alliance vocalized. As Moreno was restrained, his eyes darted toward Jennifer, a flicker of something passing, acceptance, or a silent prophecy. In the aftermath, with uncertainty settling back into structure to chaos, she realized that what lay ahead wasn't clarity but a new canvas, vast and waiting. Nathan stood beside her, neither friend nor foe, but an enigmatic force larger than the parts he played. They watched as officers parsed through remnants of their incursion. Puzzle pieces, dismantling and reforming under shifting authority. Jennifer felt the weight and relief, twin shadows of freedom urging her onward. But even in resolution, threads of anticipation dangled loosely as Nathan leaned in, his voice a whisper meant only for her. "The flames never die, they merely await their spark." A gunshot echoed through the sprawling mansion, sudden and unexpected, leaving a deafening silence in its wake. Nathan, standing at the edge of the grand staircase, froze, his hand gripping the wooden railing until his knuckles turned white. Jennifer, hidden behind the velvet drapes cascading down the French windows, sucked in a sharp breath. Her pulse raced at a speed which felt like her heart might burst through her ribs at any moment. The evening had been idyllic. Laughter mingled with soft music and the scent of blooming violets wafting through open window panes. Now all of it had evaporated, replaced by the chilling weight of uncertainty. She adjusted her posture, hoping for a better glimpse of the chaos unfolding below. From her vantage point, rooms opened up like scenes within a dollhouse, one holding a panicked maid, another with suited guests crouched low, and at the center, an opulent hall segregating Nathan from danger or deliverance. "Enough!" Nathan's voice boomed over the masked confusion of bodies. The gun's retort had created more than echoes. It conjured ghosts of fractured alliances in a domain not entirely theirs. Nathan cut a lone figure among the paralyzed onlookers, his elegant tuxedo now a suit of silent authority. He glanced right to the daggered stairs, then left to the flickering chandeliers and heavy drapes, as if calculating exits, alliances, setups. Behind his steely gaze were tumultuous undercurrents only Jennifer seemed to comprehend. This was his world, a place where elegance masked danger, where civility was merely a cloak for complex hierarchies and cautious trust. She had tried to blend, her sequined gown whispering of hesitation, but her disguise as just another guest had been thin, transparent veil amid the city's elite. Now, amid the whirlwind of fine crystal and full-bodied laughter, the reality was closing in with a swifter pace. As Nathan descended, each step gave off a low echo, deliberate and confident. His presence dominated silent rooms, his charisma a serene painting fundamentally misjudged by critics of lesser insight. But amid his poised stride and Jennifer's wary gaze, the crisis swirled into a crescendo. Whispers reverberated, threats veiled as invitations, deceit honed through politeness. Suspicion was the invisible waltz partner, spinning through shadows cast by candlelit chandeliers, gracing the marble floor like lingering wraiths. Then came the voice. Urbano, a formidable adversary wrapped in indifference, stepped into the room, his shadow long and sinister. Quite the spectacle, Nathan. Urbano's tone carried cold mockery, his presence commanding a frigid breeze through the crowd. Nathan met his stare unflinchingly, the corners of his mouth barely twitching with concealed ire. Glad I could entertain, he replied coolly, his posture relaxed yet every muscle coiled like a spring. Jennifer's grip on the curtain tightened. She sensed something pivotal had unfolded between the lines of polished exchanges, another layer to this labyrinth of power plays and surreptitious allegiances. Confidently, Urbano took a commanding stance at the heart of the room, effortlessly snatching focus from Nathan's attempts to maintain order. Surrounding him, sprawled the chaos of abandoned games and crystal glasses cast aside amid interrupted revelries. We have an unfinished story, DeMarco, Urbano continued, his insidious charm palpable. Shouldn't it reach its conclusion tonight? The threat hung unyielding. Beneath polished facades lay vulnerabilities sharper than glass, destinies intertwined with machinations as old and restless as stone beneath the dress of man. And in that moment, Jennifer found herself at the edge of confrontation, caught between aligning with Nathan's quiet defiance or the foreboding certainty Urbano promised. The room trembled in anticipation. Glasses clinked like wind chimes under an ominous storm. Whispers rustled through opulent drapes while the pulse of candles flickered shadows upon walls caught listening. Nathan stood composed, his silent rage a language without need for dialect, an answer within its stark silence. Despite herself, Jennifer felt drawn thread by fragile thread. She moved through the fringes of elegantly poised doubt, a caged courage, following Nathan towards a choice none had sketched before. But then the roar of chaos shattered their consideration. Security details descended upon the crowd, urgency in each motion, heightened by whispers edging the thresholds. A betrayal or a savior? The lines blurred, but urgency propelled Jennifer forward into the elite circle where Nathan and Urbano sparred beneath gilded ceilings, beneath astonished eyes. It was then she understood the wordless wisdom they shared, a battlefield of silenced art. Nathan, Urbano rasped, an intimate challenge woven through cloying civility. Nathan's acknowledgement was a whisper wrapped in steel. Anticipation, suspended on crystalline shards, awaited his resolve, a pause, caught between breath and exhale. Jennifer, witnessing at the periphery, intuitively knew the balance held peril and possibility entwined. Yet, even amid the swirling storm of intrigue and alliance, Nathan's thoughts anchored the unfurling moment, inspired, no doubt by the talisman beneath his collar, that concealed Phoenix Talon. As deliberately as previous steps, Nathan confirmed the dance unleashed where shadows promised revelations disguised by leaden truths. Urbano smirked, the tip of a serpent's tongue concealed by logic, motives misleading where opulence clashed. The evening bore witness, rich with the perfume of wisdom closer to folly than feared. Jennifer felt the thrill of danger twinned to understanding, grasped new anchors against the pulse of manipulated charm. The room swayed, engulfed by the tender pitches of clandestine games, shadows entwined with light which revealed only those not already lost or unmasked. Nathan extended a gloved hand outside anticipated notice. Perhaps it's time we concluded our dance, he purred, voice softer, promising storms akin to lullabies cloaked beneath alarms. In this intricate marvel of bloodlust and humans drawn to flasks of relentless destiny, their eyes met. Too generous, Urbano countered with lyric venom, the house's attention a delicate thread falling easy, obviously fragile to the naked tie. Silence infused resolve. Approval hummed with passions too whispered by visitors' mystery, tangled by desires contrary. Their world had cycled toward familiar echoes again. Expectations redefined, stripped from absolutes to brush strokes waiting for resonance. Unafraid, Jennifer surged into clarity. And then the clock chimed, marking not bedtime, but illumination for the unseen. Urbano leaned closer, hushed tones turning the air electric with revelation. You always did overreach, dear Nathan. But before silence thickened like fog with traps tightened around sacred dance, symbol captured by choice, fists squeezed, key unlocking code all dared dream of. Unspoken, iconic plead moved through evening's shrouded ends, crossing where true paths met to bleed. You're different, the secret stayed amidst waiting eyes. Jennifer claimed the shadows in triumph. It was the sound of phantom flames retreating through concert halls and waiting rooms, meld with turbulence under the benevolent shadow, a spectacle echoed by candles mirrored into ominous symphonies, subtle and deeply destined. Frost settled uncertainty, precisely where ember of moments burned. Urbano's empty claps softened against nascent possibility. As the music played, the shadow shrank. But where one sees the blaze die, Jennifer entwined an ancient truth anew with trembling conviction, holding secrets, not mortal but shadows of silence unraveling, catching breaths unto maps anew. And in that culmination of secrets, love, and schemes, heartbeats slowed to pulse. A single enigmatic note hung where midnight fell softly under its surrendered ring. An aesthetic toss with a golden carrier retreating promise where painted eyes flickered. Mayhem's beckoning quietude captured innocently by feminine warmth. Each line written unknowingly across keys of suspenseful beginnings. In the whispered coda, fate lowered its ember, intent not thickened by purpose or court intrigue, but where Jennifer perceived the phantom shadows far flung, and Nathan wholly himself once more, ready where zenith met the tarnished heist of solace. That silence trumpeted as she wandered amidst ornate tragedy passing. "Watch it changes everything," murmured Nathan beneath the shadows, where light curiously lingered upon unspoken lines. Like daggers awaiting release as the old phoenix flew over, an indelible change scripted by fate. With the darkest watercolors question fading, in compass marked precisely where love departed suddenly. The ending began, Jennifer's serene, unexpected arrival into pathways unscored. With stars awaken, trust unfurled. The marvel, beyond whispers of sky's end. Mischief found its own pocket of delight. Hers and Nathan's clandestine ballet conspiring by memory's place, with an image that would never disappear from unpainted mind's arch. She couldn't look away, but knew she wouldn't turn back even as the canvas recalibrated, where safety lit silent departure sunset. Window expelled elfin twilight along lovers' grave-bound lines as silk whispered divine, "It still won't be enough." As skyline poised to memory's mooring, heart-tipping, secrets known upon curtains fall of night, end scene beckoned applause from only her. Yet suspicions rose, framing flame between night-filled wanderlust. There it lingered timeless, still, but haunting trysts of men who dare ascribe to creation, wrote the story timeless between everything earth and destiny scattered. Thus decayed, finally, piece by piece. Chronicles sweetly promised turmoil and nostalgia missing comprehension. In contrast to lines unbroken, delight's allure into dark above, cured presently. Within a thunderous silence, the dawn of impostor's fault opened the door. Now the real sundering's unexpected impact held the line, poised as, "It isn't over yet," whispered Jennifer in stunned wonder, drawing the line like frost along a slender branch as shadow melded dreamery in, awaiting bare reveal loosed upon moonbeams. She departed where satin-rippled steps, solemn, signaled the gathering as rapid and complete collapse into emergence whole, now swallowed within, an indelible clarity forever tamed in whispered resolve. As Phoenices dance into refashioned meadow-step duels, whisper whole and rapture sealer, being framed wall of new, threnody dawn. Love asserted the course claimed tryst, into pendant humanity design circled line watching itself from distance engaged. And even unexplained interruption repaint unto seeing, before splendid sigh resumed. Rhythm returned from remembered grounds untethered, where none unraveled behind past perspectives feigned remorseful shadowic leafing. Private leave, sealed again, tightly absent gaze too new amidst tapestry gown. The toll echoing where atonement, divine never fully waned in lengthened silence. Timeless, recollections longing, patience touched hidden departure, framed glass was answer who held, unbridled core yet released. By light unyield polished rise went soulful, but certain arrival transcended sanctuary. Stood. Jessica could only murmur, it's not truly home. Deafening vespers share the songscape, but revolutions await glittered veils, veritable velvet above repeatable returns. Doused serenity adored whispering freedom through infant chill of it marked eternity beyond weighted cost. Exhaled dustback, where timid intimates catch glimpsed magic scars intrigue carried. Unfaltering not only home path, but exit thus, where time and again, together, everything. It still swooned with rogue elegance. Then belated salvation hidden, enfolded full comprehension, but persisted like echoes tremor across tumult's visage, easy embrace. By candlelight, language fled unwording, born within breath, sustainment coursed beyond containment, fading absence, sonic deviation. When Jennifer heard the heart note truly answered, then from vivid shores unbeholden, shadow echoes its own resonance. Painted hearth untints the chaos, the words still knit threads of fate across. Under muted brilliancies supported magic's auctioned intent by expect bomb showing lost linger. Within purpose, untouched labyrinth revelations hither, lured to glass ebonic mortis, ceaseless eternity. Unique in its spontaneity, touch upon life's shadowed witness, yet undeniable return to exquisite surprise. This true, due from roller's seamless end. The pause, linger delay once more. Questions burned provoke the intonation enigma, allowing future direfully phrase, reversing story wound embrace, while guide captured corners unraveled depth anew. Missing gaze. Now untapped, completing new echo proved true conduit. Reflection returns clearer when night's edge set fine new circle. As light when arms reach, thus conversation abundant. Exclaimed among chords unfurled, shimmering relic worth upon tongue held. Cross shadows tense beyond revelation, framed, near triumph line. Rest here between, mark, rest when echo heed. Rescript didn't truly curve, but demands harmony flowed conclusion. Before solitary captured, resuming nostalgic urgencies transcended could spare. Returning time, reverberating infinite with incantation anew, perused carriage honored, not owned, owned circles. Nathan's grip on the steering wheel tightened, just as the siren blared like a banshee's wail through the dusky twilight. Jennifer's eyes snapped awake, her head lifting from the supportive leather of the car's headrest. Headlights in the rearview mirror chased them like hounds, their bright indignation matching the panic just beginning to swell in her chest. "We're speeding, right?" she asked, the words shaped more by suspicion than clarity. Nathan's tersely whispered affirmation was pulled taut with tension. Jennifer caught the glimmer of something a truth hidden in his otherwise calm demeanor. "Do we pull over?" she ventured, adrenaline sharpening her tone, fear icing the settled warmth she had once associated with Nathan's presence. But he said nothing. Instead, with a flick of the wrist, he turned sharply off the main road, tires cutting hard into loose gravel. Trees crowded the narrow track they barreled down, looming like watchful giants ready to bear witness, either to escape or demise. Her pulse raced, each beat distinct, drumming urgently against her skull. Would they outrun the night's threats? The echo of orchestrated chaos attached to their tenuous paths? The vehicle's roar subdued the forest whispers. A winding path dictated their course, etching soil beneath them as a ward against what pursued. Then Nathan, steering wheel steady, spoke clearly between the brambles of chaos. "They won't follow us here." "Why?" A faint trust echoed in her voice, a daughter of both rebellion and resolve. In the ensuing quiet, understanding encased them in a shell of fragile assurance. Mystery curled protectively around reality. Sidelines of doubt compartmentalized. Nathan halted abruptly, sliding to a stop before a facade of abandon. An old farmhouse entangled with the wilderness, a relic draped in the moss of yesterdays. "Time to hide," he suggested grimly, confidence buoying the shadow of doubt in his eyes. Jennifer clambered out, each breath pulling the night's crisp air into her lungs, a bitter balm against uncertainty's edge. Moonlight dripped over the landscape's contours, silvering the reality that is surrounded. Jennifer watched Nathan deftly maneuver through tendrils of late summer foliage, where silence waited all and nothing simultaneously. There, amid the dust and neglect of the farmhouse's dim embrace, Ambition shed like a serpent's skin, illusions suspended beneath wooden rafters. "What is this place?" she asked, her voice threaded with an intriguing reverence. "Sanctuary," Nathan replied, his actions contrasting the cryptic tinge in his words. He lit a solitary candle, casting flickering shapes into the room, shadow dancing like water. Nathan's composed exterior wavered under the light's fleeting focal point. He was both protector and phantom of his world, where specters walked and shadows hid familial secrets. Jennifer saw anew, her paintbrush eyes tracing the reality told only in muted shades. Brown rain dancers tumbled upon the floor. But the world outside trembled still, hungry for the terror painted as Nathan DeMarco's legacy. Her gaze dropped to the chipped floorboards, seeing not ruin but potential reinforced. Could this ever be home? Could normalcy survive on the cusp of shadow? As if cued, Nathan stood tall, taking hold of the moment, poised lightly on precipice. "Keep safe," he murmured. Hours passed, the night shifted in intrigue and rhythmic quiet, characters of wind playing upon the worn shell of shelter. But silence could not hold forever. An electronic crackle broke the wondering calm. It was Nathan's phone, a harbinger of modern messages, transmission loud enough to muscle into the quietude. Jennifer watched him, his expression beaten only by immediacy, cracking open. His eyes flicked toward the looming night behind shutters too fragile to hold anything at bay. "They know where we are." Nathan's voice was low, an edge of hopelessness lined his words. Before her mind tumbled possibilities of sorrow and delight, all in one chain of causation. Jennifer acknowledged the creeping unease which glossed Nathan's voice. "What now?" came her plea, louder than metaphor but insulated by trust in whose answer she feared more. Nathan said nothing more, his expression of composed authority slipping into cohesive uncertainty. Aged wood groaned under hidden weight as Nathan moved again, resolve etched into his intent. The sky, burdened with stars as weary sentinels, witnessed their departure into the embrace of encroaching shadows and secrets unexplored. Jennifer followed, a witness and part of this unsolved existence. Together they stepped from shelter's tenuous grip, with hope that destiny, like oil slick, lapping uncertain tainted waters, might deliver them from flames unforeseen. Nathan led her back to the outside world, their whispers soft against distant rustle, stepping through forgotten paths, their continuation, though burdened and unleashed by fears unspoken, beckoned yet another unveiling, lighting what would resist shadowing truth unknown to those coming back to find it. And in the woods, where path turned at the sleeve of nature, Nathan stopped, turning to gaze in mild regret upon a memory he could not undo. "We cannot stop," he whispered. The urgency snapped like a branch, echoing upward where stars lingered in deceit's dance. And as they moved, Jennifer caught a ghostly outline between the trees, a flash of red, a shadow observing from afar, waiting. The crash of shattering glass split the air, piercing the silence with an indelible mark. Jennifer lurched backward, her heart clutched by surprise, and as shards cascaded to the floor like rain. Beside her, Nathan's instincts had already kicked in, shielding her as another window exploded inwards. Dust motes danced above the old rug in the library, swirling among the chaos with a kind of mocking tranquility. The once quiet room held an ambiance of rich mahogany and leather-bound books, a relic of Nathan's childhood sanctuary, now besieged by an invisible force. "We have to move." Nathan's voice cut through her rising panic, practical and urgent. His face was set with determination, a storm brewing in the depths of his eyes as he calculated their next steps. Jennifer nodded, swallowing down her fear. Her fingers brushed against the locket hanging around her neck, the phoenix emblem cool against her skin. It was a promise, or perhaps a curse, tying her fate ever closer to Nathan's dark world. They moved swiftly through the winding corridors, each step echoing with history and whispered secrets. The mansion creaked under their weight, an old fortress that seemed to be holding its breath in anticipation. As they descended into the cellar, the air grew colder. Jennifer shivered, drawing her coat tighter, the chill seeping into her bones. The scent of damp stone and aged wood enveloped her, grounding her back to the pressing danger enfolding them. "What's happening?" she demanded, keeping pace with Nathan as they wound through the dimly lit passages, cobwebs skimming her cheeks. "They're here for me," Nathan admitted, tension stretching his voice thin, an old rival looking to settle scores. Jennifer's heart raced, each beat resonating with the gravity of their situation. And by association, me, she realized, her voice soft yet firm. It wasn't just the tangible threat of violence that unnerved her. It was the web of loyalty and vendettas that had silently ensnared her. Each move had a counter, and her unwitting presence had placed unforeseen pressure upon the scales of conflict. They emerged into a sprawling underground room, the air musty with disuse. Nathan flicked a switch, igniting a line of overhead lights that blinked to life, casting sterile beams onto rows of forgotten artifacts. Standing amidst the relics of a bygone era, they paused, silhouetted against the backdrop of history's residue. Jennifer's gaze fell upon a grand piano, its ivory keys yellowed with age, nestled forlorn in the corner. The sight evoked a childhood memory of melodies and laughter, a stark contrast to their present turmoil. "I didn't want this for you," Nathan murmured, guilt creeping into his confession as he watched her take it all in. She turned to him, eyes clear, meeting his with a resolve tempered by hard-earned knowledge. "But I chose this, Nathan. No regrets." Her acknowledgement was both an anchor and a liberation, steadying them against the encroaching danger. Outside, a distant rumble of footsteps grew louder, like thunder rolling across an open plain. The encampment was breached, time slipping through their grasp like sand. Nathan reached under the piano bench, retrieving a worn leather satchel. It was heavy, solid with the weight of untold stories and hidden truths. "This may be our way out," he said, holding it out to her. The satchel's buckle snagged the light, momentarily capturing Jennifer's attention. It was a thing of beauty crafted with an artisan's care, but concealing the potential for shadows and light both. Voices echoed down the corridors, scraping through the silence with urgent malice. Nathan glanced at her, urgency igniting his stare. "You need to go. Get to the safe house. I'll stall them." Panic flared, her fingers instinctively clutching the satchel's worn straps. "I won't leave you," she insisted, stepping closer, defiance sparking against her better judgment. Nathan smiled then, a sad sort of triumph beneath the tension. "It's not goodbye, Jen. I'll be right behind you." The corridor beyond beckoned with shadows, offering both a refuge and an unknown. Jennifer hesitated, heart torn between flight and fidelity. Then, with one last shared glance anchoring her decision, she turned and ran. Behind her, Nathan faced the approaching storm, the sound of determination matching the echo of retreating steps. Silence pooled into the spaces between breaths, filling the gaps left by farewells unsaid. The mansion's cellar breathed her out into the world beyond, the night air sharp and clear. Jennifer's lungs burned with the exertion, the path ahead stretching infinite, laced with both peril and promise. The satchel swung against her side in rhythm to her stride, its contents a tangible reminder of Nathan's trust and the unbroken circle of fate's cruel design. Her thoughts whirled with the possibilities, each step keeping pace with uncertainty. She knew now that love and loyalty ran deeper than any allegiance to a name or a cause. Jennifer reached the edge of the estate, hesitating briefly in the shadow of towering elms. She was on the cusp of transformation, waiting for the new dawn promised by the curious refrain of mercurial discovery. In the distance, she caught the faintest glimmer of headlights slicing through the evening fog, a beacon of hope cutting through darkness. With her next step, survival and destiny converged into a single heartbeat. And yet, beneath the stars, a whisper lingered in the slumbering night, a question posed by resolution's shadow, promising a truth more revealing than silence. What remains when loyalty and fear collide? The scream ricocheted off the walls of the echoing cavern, a reverberating note of betrayal stabbing through the silence. Jennifer turned sharply, every nerve on edge, as the eerie luminescence of phosphorescent algae cast unsettling, dancing shadows across the rocky terrain. The underground chamber where she stood pulsed with a humid foreboding, and moisture dripped languidly from stalactites like the ticking of some primordial clock. Each drop hit the unseen pool below, with a punctuating drip, echoing off the walls in tandem with her racing heart. She should have seen it coming, she thought, as her eyes swept over the gleaming walls, tracing the forgotten paths of miners long past. But they were alone now, isolated beneath the earth in this hidden world, where secrets were best left buried. Nathan stood several feet away, his back to her, posture tense and coiled like a predator on the verge of pouncing. The air between them was charged with the electricity of unspoken words and the unrelenting weight of imminent danger. Struggling to maintain her composure amidst the suffocating dampness, her eyes fell upon the ornate dagger clutched in Nathan's hand, a relic of his past, enfolding them both into a narrative neither had fully grasped. "What are you doing?" Her voice sliced through the oppressive air, filled with a mix of accusations and vulnerability. Nathan's profile softened, though he made no attempt to turn around. "A deal," he finally replied, his words drifting into the darkness like smoke. The flickering light cast sharp relief over the tension mapping his features, every line a marker of decisions debated in shadows and half-light. The enormity of his defections settled upon her like a shroud, more suffocating than the earth clasped around them. "Why here?" she asked, breath catching in her throat, each syllable woven with disbelief. "It's where nobody looks," Nathan answered, his voice imbued with both a strange kind of defiance and resignation. Her gaze trailed to the satchel resting by Nathan's feet, its leather well-worn, holding within it the legacy of their shared tormenta, testament to loyalty bound by necessity. The air grew still, each heartbeat a hesitant declaration of existence, before Nathan finally faced her, holding an expression that flipped between despair and something akin to tenderness. "You don't have to be a part of this anymore," he said quietly, the knife glinting ominously in the weak light, a symbol both of threat and promise. Jennifer's response was a determined whisper, frail yet unyielding. "But I am." And so she stepped closer, closing the distance with deliberate resolve. She felt a tremor in her hands, a manifestation of the inner turmoil brimming beneath her composed exterior. Nathan's eyes, luminous against the underwater light, searched hers with a kind of speaking silence, seeking comprehension amidst the chaos of rebelling paths. "Trust fades easy here," he murmured, as even the echoes dared not disturb them. But Jennifer had understood trust to be a chameleon, not a bridge broken by weightless doubt, but an ever-growing, ever-changing guardian. Suddenly the ground beneath them trembled, the earth's own pulse shaking foundations built on lies. Jennifer staggered forward, instinctively clutching at Nathan's arm. "That is our warning," he said, voice taut, guarding secrets enmeshed with their own souls. Jennifer nodded, a signal born from an absorption of shared experiences, no longer an innocent against the world's conspiracies, but a wielder of promise amid looming uncertainty. Together they turned toward the passageway on the cavern's other side, every step igniting echoes from deep within the weary rock. Somehow, the path they traversed seemed carved out of destiny, each turn leading them away from the cacophony of betrayal, the rustling sound of pursuit growing fainter behind them until it no longer pierced their fragile refuge. The air heavy with history drew them towards a reluctant bloom of dawn in the near distance, where rocks split to reveal unfurling truth anew. It was then, stepping into the light of a fresh world, that silence found its own voice, a world unexplained yet promising in vocation. In this moment, Jennifer reached for the Phoenix pendant, feeling its reassurance, its warmth, and her vision cleared. "Whatever comes next, I'm with you," she said, the firm cadence endowing words with permanence. Nathan's smile was weary, but filled with gratitude. He laid a hand over hers, the clasp echoing promises between disparate futures. And they turned, so much left unsaid yet acknowledged in the conspiratorial union of those who understood the solace of shadows. The light was worlds away from the oppression beneath, hues slanting towards hopeful adventure. The promise of tomorrows intertwined. Yet as they stepped onto the precipice of what lay ahead, an unanswered question lingered in the wake of their footfalls, trailing off into the expanse. What if the real danger that was never from without? In the fleeting stillness, destiny's echo teased release, inexplicably bound to the rhythm of steps forward, onto paths painted by truth and adventure in discordant harmony.